Is it still morning? Good morning. Thank you all so much. I accept your kind welcome on behalf of all of you who made so much that we enjoy here and appreciate here possible. John, thank you for your very kind words, very generous words. I accept them on behalf of each and every one of you and each and every one of my colleagues in the Congress who had the courage to make so much possible. They say to me, it's easy for you. San Francisco is so tolerant. I said, and you've heard me say this before, please don't use the word tolerant when you talk about San Francisco. For us, that's a condescending word. We're not talking about tolerance. We're talking about respect. We're talking about taking pride. Happy Pride Month to all of you. As John said, it's especially appropriate that we have the Voices of the Trans Choir start us off today. They brought out the sunshine when they started to sing. And Jess Levine, thank you. Come back over here. Thank you for your leadership in making this beautiful music bring us together. I was feeling like getting up there and dance while they were singing because I do believe that you can never dance enough, and your music was so inspiring. Thank you so much. And again, we're going to hear some more music a little bit later in the program from Bishop Yvette Flunder from the City of Refuge Ministry. And we talk about her music, but she also was there when we were reauthorizing the Ryan White Care Act. So it's action as well as the beauty of music. Thank you, Bishop. We look forward to hearing from you shortly. I say shortly, I have a lot I want to tell you, but I'll try to keep it brief because I don't want to be standing between you, the bishop, and lunch. So let's see how succinctly I can do this. Every year on my anniversary in Congress, I come home here. Sometimes we're in here in between, but for sure each year to observe my anniversary of serving in Congress. That first day when I was sworn in June of 1987, some of you weren't even born. Some of your parents weren't even born. I know Mira and Bennett are here with their parents, and they're in grade school, and they want to participate in this as civic involvement, and this is the path they have chosen, so that is so lovely. And they're, 12 years old, I believe. So we have a future, John, that you talked about of some other children. Jack Porter's grandson, Miles, who was here in high school now. So in any event, thank you for sowing the seeds for this going into the future. So here we are at this place of remembrance, of renewal, of love, of leadership, and of action. Here we are at this place. I wish you could have seen it when we started. You have pictures. We have to show them sometime, but you would never believe, except for volunteerism and action and love and remembrance and renewal, the volunteerism that made this happen. I spoke earlier to Billy and Alice Shapiro and thanked them for their involvement from the start here, but so many of you made this possible. Renewal. Now, they had me weeding before and taking out strawberries. And I thought, strawberries, that sounds like a good thing. Not there. They're weeds. So we all have to remember what our role is wherever it is. Are we a strawberry or a weed? And make our judgments as we go forward. But the unbroken circle that you talked about is what this is about, an ever-widening circle of friends. We thought that we had surmounted some difficulties because of the activism of the LGBTQ community. I've said to you here, when we were here gathered around the quilt on a recent occasion, Jim Hormel was still with us at that time, and that was his last public appearance. Now he's here on a boulder, but he would want to be recognized in that way. I told you that day that one of the celebrations of the LGBTQ community is about your patriotism, When I was sworn in that day, 36 years ago, I said to them, I'm here. I told my constituents that when I came here, I would tell you that I came to fight against HIV and AIDS. That was, and then people said to me after, why did you say that? You don't want people to think that's the first thing that you hear about. I said, well, I said that because that's why I came here. So that's why I said that. But I mentioned that not to be as self-serving as that is, but to show that there was discrimination. These people, the people who said that to me were not the discriminators, but they were talking about the other people in the country, in the Congress. So discrimination, as John pointed out, was an important part of this. We needed prevention, we needed care, we needed research, we needed all of that, but we needed to end the discrimination. And thank you to the LGBT community because of your activism, your outside mobilization. You're showing people in their families love. Not everybody, but enough people for us to get past the anti-LGBTQ. Not to yet, I'm on our way. And in the course of all of that, we were passing our hate crimes legislation. This was really important to all of us. The community said, this is one of the first bills we want you to pass. They were mobilizing outside, we were maneuvering inside, and people came to me and said, we weren't able to bring it to the floor. They said, you could pass this bill in 1 minute if you took out trans. I said, you go back and tell those people that we aren't passing it in 100 years if we take out trans, because we're never taking out trans. This is about a dozen years ago. And now, as John said, there are those who have trans community in their crosshairs. You know why? Because they're bankrupt of any ideas for our country. They are not honoring the vision of our founders about equality. They're not honoring the service of our men and women about freedom and respect for people in our country. They're not concerned about the aspirations of our children to go forward with equality, with love and leadership and action. So what do? They pick on the trans community. And we cannot let them prevail. That's their red meat that they throw out to their folks. So this is a moment. I always talk about a temporal reference. This is a moment where so much is at stake in our country about freedom, manifested in what they're trying to do to the trans community, manifested in so many other ways, January 6th, so many other ways I won't go into right now. But you know what they are. So the patriotism of the LGBTQ community since that horrible diagnosis so many years ago that took so many lives of so many of our friends who we'll always remember and miss, but will always take action out of love for them. Pat yourselves on the back, all of you are of the community or for the community, for the difference that the community has made since the late 80s, turning it into a situation where the Supreme Court had to recognize marriage equality. I went there that day for the debate, and one of the justices said, boy, this thing's really going fast. No, it isn't going fast. We've been doing this for a very long time. But I don't think we would have had the success with marriage equality if we had not had the mobilization around HIV and AIDS. So take credit for all of the things that happened, whether it was the hate crimes bill, which we did pass, fully inclusive, whether it was the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which followed a couple years later, whether it is marriage equality and all the things that the successes that we have. So now you're going to have an institution built to memorialize all of the successes, to prepare for other, shall we say, opportunities to spread freedom through the eyes of those of us who have seen the challenges to it. And I'm very pleased to bring from the Congress $750,000 for the organizing. Well, that's a drop in the bucket compared to what we're going to need, but it's a start for the organizing for it. And I thank John for that. Again, there's so many things to talk about, and we'll see each other individually. But take pride. It is so important that we use that word in this month. And just think, in this month, we also have gun violence prevention awareness. Earlier this week, we observed the anniversary of the Pulse, the attack on the Pulse. When I was there to visit the families following that and bringing the San Francisco values to sign the memorial, and then when I welcomed them to the Capitol, they said just one thing: please make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. And please make sure that they don't target our community in this violent way. And that is our commitment. So in this month, when we talk about gun violence and we talk about pride, that memorial looms large, not only as a reminder, but a challenge to our conscience. So thank you all for so much and for the work that went into making this what it is. Now, how we got this passed, don't tell anybody I told you this. Okay? You with me on that? We were passing the bill to establish the Presidio as a national park. This was a big deal. It was a very big deal. There were opponents to that as well, but we were passing that legislation. We had originated the passage in the Democratic Congress, and then that November we lost the Congress, but we still had bipartisan support to pass it in the next Congress. On that bill that was leaving the station, we had the declaration of the AIDS Memorial Grove in San Francisco as a national AIDS Memorial Grove. Now, some of the people who weren't that friendly to begin with when I said what I said in 1987 were like, well, how come you're getting a national grove? We should have it in our city. Interesting, that's all. And as you know, I said to them, you know what's interesting about that? Absolutely nothing. We're having the National AIDS Memorial Grove in San Francisco. There's no question that's where it should be. We took a terrible bite of that wormy apple of AIDS right from the start. We're the source of community suggestions and approach to prevention, to care, and to research. Community-based. That was the essence of the legislation that we put forward. So, San Francisco National Memorial Grove. People always ask me, where's hope? My daughter Christine and my kids have said, Mom, keep telling them where you think hope is. Hope is where it always has been, right there between faith and love, faith, hope, and charity. If you believe in love and the goodness of others, that gives us hope. And it's that hope that has taken us down so many paths, made such a difference. And that is that hope that will help us not only take pride in our trans community, but make sure that everyone else does as well. Thank you all so much for what you are doing in this ever-widening circle of love, leadership, and action. Thank you so much. And by the way, today is John's birthday, in case anybody wants to sing happy birthday.
Thank you. I've got your glasses. Yeah, we'll get on it. Bishop Plumber's coming up next. You all are the greatest gift I could have ever received this year. Thank you. Thank you. I love you all.